Hello and welcome to my newest episode of ENTP Time. Today I am a little bit fake and I'm drinking water, but you can pretend that it's tea today. Other days I will drink tea. I'm just so tired today, so I'm not gonna bother to make tea, but I can just pretend like it is, or whatever. So today the topic that I'm gonna be talking about is, as you probably know by the title, is extroverted thinking. So TE is how I'll probably refer to it throughout this video. Also, yes, please don't mind my nails. I lost my willpower today to not peel them off, so I'm gonna take them all off after I'm done with this video. I forgot to do it. I was gonna do it before I recorded, but here we are, so I'm gonna keep my hands to myself. So I'm gonna be talking about TE and just to give it some background, I guess, extroverted thinking is one of the extroverted functions, and that means that it is more obsessed with breadth rather than depth, like the introverted functions are. And as it is an extroverted function, it's oriented outward, and it is a more objective function rather than subjective, as the internal functions would be. I guess stereotypically, extroverted thinking is all about effectiveness. So if something works or not, and if it doesn't work, then we're just gonna do it so that it works. It doesn't have to be great, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if it works, it works. So for me, honestly, TE kind of reminds me of evolution. So you know how organisms that are adapting to their environment, it's like if it works, it works, and then they survive and pass their genes on. It's not they're like oh, I'm gonna change all these things about me so that I work. It's no, it's just if it works, it works. Moving on. Yeah, so my research mentor, he is an extroverted thinking dominant type, which is really cool, and it's actually really fun to work with as an NE dom. In general, I obviously struggle with coming up with a lot of ideas and then not actually doing any of them, as in I come up with a lot of ideas, but then I can't actually employ any of them because I just have ideas. But the thing I really respect about TE is that they decide to do something and they usually just get it done, which is really, really, really cool to me. And also the fact of the matter is that if someone has extroverted thinking pretty high up in their stack, that means that extroverted feeling is pretty low in their stack. It could, if they're a TE dom or a TE aux user, then they would have FE in their polar or their role positions, so they're not even it's not even valued for them, extroverted feeling. So I tend to find that extroverted thinking, high extroverted thinking users, they'll kind of say whatever they want to say without regards to how someone else might react to it, in a social situation. For example, if I'm saying my friend, let's say my friend passed away, right? An FE user would probably be oh, my friend passed away. Or if I was someone else, an FE user talking to someone else, I'd be oh, your friend passed away. But if you're a TE user, at least from what I've observed, they're more likely to just be yeah, your friend died. It's not as much social acceptable things to say sort of thing, where you don't basically TE won't really try to make it so that it's more nice for you. And TE doms are not mean, they're definitely not, but they're not afraid to tell you how it is. They'll just kind of tell you, and that's just kind of how they are. And I really, really, really actually love that about TE users. They're very straight up with you, and I really appreciate that. Something that I also noticed really big in high TE users is that they're really big on boundaries. So they're really big on drawing the lines of a boundary. So for example, if I start becoming friends with a high TE user, then at the beginning they'll treat me a certain way, and every time I try to kind of get close to them, they'll throw up a wall, kind of oh, but we're not friends though, they'll throw up something like that. In my experience, that's what I see. And then if you wiggle past that boundary, that wall, then they'll set up another wall. Every time you get a little too close and you make their FI maybe a little bit uncomfortable, then they set up another wall, and then it's a boundary. But I really like that too. TE users are really good at setting boundaries and deciding on things before things happen. So for me, I'm an ENTP, so my polar function, point of least resistance function, is FI, so introverted feeling. And because that is like my absolute weakest function, like if someone confronts me emotionally and like catches me off guard, I don't know what to do. Like emotional confrontation is really weird for me or hard for me, especially if someone's like trying to say that like I hurt them. Like I don't know how to react very well. Like in general, for like things that are like on the fly, like emotional sort of things, like feelings, these sort of things, then like I don't know how to react. So what I like to do is before anything even happens, I set the TE boundary of like what we should do in the case that something happens. So I guess, for example, let's say I am becoming friends with someone, you know, like in general, like instead of like us getting really close and then after a while like I don't have as much time and like maybe we don't hang out as much, and for them to be like confronting me like, hey, do you hate me because we don't spend as much time together anymore? Like before we get to that point, I like to say like, hey, I'm probably gonna be busy next quarter, so I won't be able to hang out with you as much. That doesn't mean that I don't like you, and if it does seem like that, then bring it up to me and we'll talk about it. So like setting up that boundary beforehand and actually talking about it has been something that has been really helpful for me. And I find that TE users are endlessly good at this, like high TE users. And for me, it's something that I'm trying to adopt from them because I am absolutely terrible at doing stuff like that. I usually don't say something like that. And then the FI thing happens and I just avoid and I avoid. But the thing I really like about TE users is that like they kind of set up those things beforehand. Like they're also usually pretty clear on like hierarchy. So they're kind of like, they know where they stand usually, which is pretty cool. And yeah, I also find that like TE users, like at least the high ones, they things need to be like practical. So for example, like I have an ESTJ friend, so he's a TE dominant type, and if I talk to him about typology and like he asks me a question, he'll be like, is that related to type? Or like, is that why I'm this way? Or is this that? Like he's really quick to kind of like come to snap judgment, because whatever is effective, and there's no point in like lingering and thinking of all the possibilities. Like I guess for an ESTJ it's a little bit different because ESTJs have NE, so they like to also just explore the possibilities and kind of daydream. But especially for like my research mentor, he is an ENTJ, so him with his TE and then NI and then like SE, he doesn't really have time to just like daydream like I do. So if it's not like very effective and practical, it's not something that necessarily like would interest him. So in general, like that's why I think that high TE users are not like particularly interested in typology in my experience, just because they're like, is it effective? Where's the evidence? Is it true? And I'm like, well, I mean, there's a lot of nuance to everything, you know, like I can't just be like, yes, it's true, or like, here's the one empirical evidence, you know, and like, it's like hard because like, it's hard to try to show them that this could be useful if it doesn't have like kind of like an immediate value. Like I could see like, especially ENTJs, they could see like very long term like how things could benefit them, but like for me as an NE user, I could see like immediate like a bunch of possibilities of like things I could do with this information. But you know, the NI user would be like, long term, how would this help me? And like in this moment, how is it effective? And it's like typology, not really either. So I could deem it useless, you know? So like I could see quickly why like, I mean, I could see why ENTJs could quickly like kind of reject typology, though they do find it interesting to a certain extent, but not to like study in depth. In my experience, of course, this is all anecdotal. So if you disagree and if you've experienced something else, please let me know. I would love to hear about it actually, because I'm very curious, because TE dominant types intrigue me so much. I really, really, really like it. Something else that I also noticed with TE DOMs is that they really, really, really like it when people are competent. And like that kind of goes like without saying that, like people in general like people who are competent, but TE users especially, like they appreciate people who are competent. Like they want you to be able to have like a conversation back and like actually like be able to think and like respond, which, you know, is sometimes challenging, especially to TE Dom, but also like TE Dom types, like I think like they really like it when someone is like very confident in their knowledge. So, or like confident in confident in general, I guess. So for me, like I definitely am working a lot on being more confident, which I really think I am very confident of a person. Like I'm very confident. Some people would say I'm borderline cocky, which I could address in another video of like some sort of thing like I like to live by, like a rule, but I'll get into that in another video. But like, yeah, so I do think that TE DOMs really respect like confidence, because it shows them that like you think that you're competent. And because if you don't think you're competent, then like why would the TEs you think you're competent? They're not there to like baby you, you know? It's not about the emotions. It's kind of about like, you know, you got to do what you got to do. And I'm not trying to say like TE people are like heartless. They're definitely not. Like TE users are some of the kindest people I know, especially like with that FI that they have. Like they do hold like that like, I want to shy away from the word morals, but like, you know, they do hold those morals and stuff, and like in that like depth and like that deep sort of care for like how they feel about you. And like there's just like there is like, honestly, like the TE users I know are like some of my favorite people. Like they're the people I'm closest with, which I really appreciate. But yeah, anyway, I hit over 10 minutes, so I'm probably gonna end this video around here. Go ahead and leave a comment down below if you have any questions or anything you want me to address in the future. I'm still obviously going to continue through the rest of the cognitive functions, so I think I have 2 left. I just have introverted feeling and then extroverted sensing. And once I finish those 2, then I can go ahead and start talking about, I guess, other stuff about cognitive functions. Yeah, so if you were watching all the way to the end, then thank you for watching, and yeah, I will see you on my next one. Bye!